Good morning, everybody. It's Jeff Goldberg for the Sales Pro Network. It is Friday, December 1st. I am a sales trainer and coach, and I work with both individuals and organizations to help them achieve measurable and sustainable sales increases. And I founded the Sales Pro Network. If I could speak, I'd be a professional speaker. I founded the Sales Pro Network 3 years ago to elevate the profession of sales, to give salespeople a place where they can hang out, network with each other, ask questions, get advice and coaching, learn, earn, and excel. And if you've been with us before, excuse me, you know that every week, Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, I either do a training or a live interview with somebody who can add value to the profession of sales. While I'm waiting for our guest to arrive, I want to say a couple of things for you because it is December. First of all, if you're watching us live on Facebook, please, and you have not connected your account to StreamYard, please say hello in the comments and include your name. Also, if you have any questions for our guests during the show, please put those in the comments. If you're watching us on any other platform, feel free to put comments in. And if you are watching us on the replay, please put replay in the comments. And with that, I want to give you a little couple of pieces of advice for the end of the year. We've now got 1 month left before the new year begins. I get a lot of calls and emails and texts at this time of year from panicked salespeople saying, "What do I do? I'm not going to hit my quota. Can you help?" My answer is probably not with this little time. There's very little help I can give you. You should have been looking out for help, mid-year at the latest to try to really affect the end of the year. But there are a couple of things that you can do if you're struggling or even if you are not. One of them is everyone who told you, "I want to think it over in 2023, now is the time to reach out to them." I don't care whether they said it 2 weeks ago or 6 months ago. Reach out to them because you never know when somebody has been considering it or is in a different place than they were when you first spoke with them, and they might be ready to do business. In fact, I'm betting that for almost everyone, there's at least one deal that you can close just by doing that. Just reach out to them and say, "I know you were thinking it over. Have you made any decisions?" And I'm betting that in the entire year of people who told you they were thinking it over, we each have at least one that can close a deal for you. The second thing is do not give up. Oh, let me bring on our guest so he can join us here while I'm giving you this last bit of advice. I'll introduce him to you in a minute. The second piece of advice is this: don't give up. This is not the time to say, "Well, it's after Thanksgiving and you just can't close business after Thanksgiving, so I might as well coast to the end of the year." Do not do that. There's plenty of time to close business. Now, unless you're in a highly transactional sale, something that typically closes within a week or two, it's unlikely that you're going to start a sales process now and close business in December, but you're also setting up your January and your Q1. So do not give up right now. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, never give up. When it's time to take a rest, but there's plenty of time to still close business this year, plenty of working days that you can be out there making sales happen. And the other thing I want you to know is do not stop prospecting. This is something I see quite often with salespeople. December's a dead month. You got Christmas, you got Hanukkah, you got Kwanzaa, you got 8 million holidays. Again, it's after Thanksgiving, so why even bother? No. We all know that when you stop prospecting and you begin again, appointments do not come immediately. It takes a while. It's not like you're going to call people or reach out via email or whatever else you're doing today and get appointments tomorrow, usually. But you can be setting up again the end of December and the beginning of January. So do not stop prospecting now. It's just not the time to do it. And with that, I think I've given you enough words of wisdom for today, and I want to have somebody else give you words of wisdom. So I'd like to introduce you. By the way, I haven't repeated many guests in the 3 years I've been doing that, but sometimes there are some guests who are so terrific that I can't help but invite them back. And today's guest is one of them. He was with us in March, and he is the Chief Disruptor. I love that title. He is the Chief Disruptor at Network in Action and Network in Action International. Please welcome Daniel Andrews. Daniel, good morning, sir.
Great. Thanks. And apologies for my scatteredness, guys. Those of you that have been on the live stream, saw me ducking and out trying to get my hair done right. My situation is that my 81-year-old mother with dementia has moved into our home. And so everything I do is now being compressed. So I apologize for not being more on top of it, but it's not until I log on to my video camera that I'm like, oh, my hair is still a wreck, man. So anyway, You have less of that to worry about than I do, Jeff. So.
I got you, Daniel. And as
Sure.
they sing the song of Werewolves of London, your hair is perfect.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so
Sorry to hear
I
about
know
your
that
mom.
reference, by the way. Do you have a prompt you want me to start with? You just want me to launch into some fun stuff?
No, hang on. I've got some things I want to talk about.
Good.
Sorry to hear about your mom, by the way. My mom also has dementia. She's in a home. She's 93, and I understand how rough it is.
Yeah.
It's just an impossible situation. Hang in there, my friend, and do the best you can. And
Sure.
the only other advice I would give you is while you're taking care of mom, be sure to take care of yourself. My sister was the main caregiver because my mom lives out in Vegas and so does my sister. And I know what she went through until she went into an assisted living facility. The only other thing I'll say is this. My sister waited way too long out of guilt to get her into a facility where people could really take the best care of her, tried to do everything herself, hurt herself physically, had to have an operation. And, when the time comes,
the reverse is true. We had to bring her from a facility home because in our state, they're concerned about abuse, as they should be, which means you can't use restraints, but restraints include bed rails, like what we would put on the bunk bed for your children. And mom has delusions and wants to get out of bed and she's too weak to stand. So we have to have her at home because we have to have bed rails. But yes, and let me just go ahead and tell those of you that are looking to the future, this is totally unrelated to the sales network or anything that Jeff and I are going to talk about, but here's my lesson. Buy the long-term care insurance. And if your parents are young enough, get them to buy it, because I would be bankrupt or suicidal or both if my mom did not have long-term care insurance. Huge difference. And yes, dementia is catching. The caregivers will lose their minds too. So you absolutely have to practice self-care. So
absolutely.
That's my life lesson for today. Let's talk about sales stuff.
Well, I just want to say one more thing because Nevada happens to be a terrific state with that. The reason that my sister waited so long is we both thought that she would end up, because she has no money. It would either be I'd be paying for it or she'd be in some hellhole. And it turns out that the way Nevada works with the federal government, she's in a wonderful, beautiful place. And there's very, very little out of my pocket. I mean, really a negligible amount. So I think it depends on where you live. And
Sure.
Of course, all we want is for our moms and dads to be well taken care of and live out whatever life they have left and as happy as they can be. Anyways,
be kind to your children. They will pick your nursing home.
Absolutely. I keep begging my children to say, I wiped your tushy a lot, all three of you, when you were little. One of you got to take care of me if that ever happens to me.
Be ready for it, man.
Exactly right. Good morning, Bruce Castleman. It's good to see you, my friend John Salick. Good to see you. John, who says hang on, my mouse is working weird. Can't wait till the well is dry to dig a new one. Don't wait. Oh, I see. I thought you were saying I can't wait. No, you cannot wait till the well is dry. You're absolutely right, John. So, Daniel, your organization is Network in Action. So many of us belong to networking groups and networking organizations.
Right.
What's the difference between your group, Network in Action, and most other networking organizations?
Well, I would say that there's some fairly fundamental differences, and I'm a huge fan, by the way. I'm a franchisee of Network in Action. I didn't create it. I'm using somebody else's model, but I chose this model because it felt right. And it felt right because the focus is on relationship more than it is transactions. I mean, I think people join organizations like this because they have a desire for business growth, right? But I believe language is important. And I refer to my community, as do some of the other Network in Action franchisees, as business growth communities. Right? Because when you say networking group, there's just a whole set of adjectives that come along with that in people's minds, descriptors that don't represent what we do here. And I'm happy to elucidate, why relationships are different than transactions and what that really ultimately means. Don't want this to be a sales pitch for Network in Action, although I'm certainly a fan. And if you have a local chapter, and a couple of us, I'm one included, conducts a digital chapter, meaning I can accept members from anywhere, particularly high ticket B2B. So I'll throw that out there. But if you want to talk to me later, Jeff can help you find me. This is not going to be a sales pitch. But I would say that I love the fact that Network in Action uses the noun form of the word network and not the verb form. Because probably on the first call I was on, I don't remember, but some of my themes are consistent. And that is that I always put air quotes around the word networking. Because I don't see the book in here, but my favorite book on the subject, the subtitle is Stop Networking and Start Building Relationships That Matter. Right. And there's a pretty big difference. The longer I do this, the more in tune I get to other people's language, right? Marketing, and somebody's like, your personal brand, and, consistent messaging. And I'm like, I'm more worried about my reputation than my brand. My brand is what I say about me. My reputation is what other people say about me.
And one of those two is more important than the other. And I think we both know which one it is.
That's why everybody goes to the reviews, right? Their whole site's built around, here are the reviews, because someone else's opinion, right? The menu always looks good online, but Yelp will tell you whether or not the food's actually any good, right?
Absolutely. And by the way, I could not agree more. I've been in one networking organization for 18 years. It accounts for 30% of my business. And while it is called a networking group, we really refer to it as a business development organization, because there's a lot more that we get out of being in the group other than referrals. And of course, the main reason we're all there is, how do we grow our businesses? How do we refer each other? But there is so much more. And could you illuminate us a little bit more? What are the other benefits to networking besides referrals?
Okay. Well, I think you touched on it, right? If you are in a community, and that doesn't mean you have to join one, you can build your own. But if you build your own community of relationships, even if it's focused around biz dev, growth, prospects, referrals, introductions, I would say that if you've built it around relationships and not transactions, then you ultimately have a de facto board of directors, mastermind, your own little version of Tab or Vistage or C12 or whatever it is that exists in your world, right? Which, number one, it's not always accessible to everybody, because, for like Vistage, for example, you got to have 50 employees and 5 million in revenue. There's a lot of successful entrepreneurs that will never qualify for these high ticket, spaces, right? But if you've built that community with relationship, then you have people that you can go to ask questions, either as a community or as individuals, right? Saw a good friend of mine, someone I know better than most in terms of business, at a luncheon yesterday for a local trade association where we're both on, committee boards, committee members. And I said, Glenn, I said, can we go to lunch in the back half of December, man to man, not businessman to businessman? And he's like, yeah. And he's accessible to me because we have always interacted in a basis that was built around relationship. Now, I will caution that most people pursue the wrong sort of relationship, right? I talked to somebody one time. I'm like, so what does networking look like for you, right? Because I always want to kind of find out where people were starting from. Well, I just go to the things and I try to make a lot of friends, and then eventually I started to try to talk about business. And I said, ma'am, that's not networking. That's prospecting with a beer in your hand, right? Number one, she's not networking, she's prospecting. And number two, she's getting the order confused. Which feels better, to gradually mix friendship into a business connection or business relationship, or to gradually mix business into a friendship? It's harder to get your friends to do business with you than it is to get your clients or business connections to become friendly with you.
Not only that, I just had this conversation in the networking group I belong to yesterday, that one of the guys brought up, because I'm running a boot camp for salespeople these days, and this gentleman has been it, and one of his questions was, how do I sell my friends? I don't feel comfortable approaching my friend with he's a financial advisor. Really, he's my financial advisor. I trust him implicitly. He's fantastic, and he's uncomfortable going to friends. And my advice was, and I'd like to hear what you have to say, it's fine to talk to your friends. In fact, I think you owe it to them, but you want to make clear, look, there's nothing more important to me than our friendship, but you know what I do for a living. If you're open to a conversation, I'd love to do that. But if it's going to get in the way of our friendship, don't bother. I'm not interested. Our friendship's most important. I think that you do yourself and others a disservice when you don't let people know what you do.
Correct. If you believe your message is worth amplifying. Right. And I tell people, financial services, I would have the same message for as I do real estate agents. If you're mediocre, don't take on your friends as clients, because you'll kill the friendship and probably lose the client. If you're really, really, really good, not if you think you're really good, but if you're really, really, really good, then it's fine. Now, I do believe that it's okay to let your friends know what you do. And I can talk about the subtleties there. But given that we would all acknowledge that it is harder, even internally or externally, our heart or their heart, it's harder to move people from friends to clients. That means we need to be out doing our networking in a model that doesn't imply friendship first. Okay.
Yep.
And give you multiple examples, or, I can differentiate on that a little bit, but yes, but I would do it in the context of, Jeff, you have a rough idea of what I do for a living, right? If there's ever a moment that you want to understand more fully so that you can refer business to me, I'm happy to have that conversation with you. And over the course of that conversation, you hold your hand up and go, hey, Dan, I want one of those conversations that you were talking about whether or not what I do can be of service to you. I'm happy to do that. I've got to put it on you right now, Jeff. You're going to have to come to me. When I see you at church, synagogue, mosque, whatever, at the country club, all I'm going to do is look in the eye, shake hands, ask about your family. You're going to ask about my mom, right? I know that. That's all we're going to talk about until you tell me, let's do this thing.
Yeah,
right?
I think it's also important to clarify that networking is not selling. Your job in any networking organization or any networking group is definitely not to sell to the other members. And the last thing you should do when you're called on to give your brief commercial is say, and I'd love to do business with all of you. Everybody knows that everybody would love to do business with everybody, but that's not the purpose. The purpose is, how do I get people to know me, like me, and trust me so well that when the opportunity comes up, they say, oh, you've got to meet my friend Daniel Andrews. He's fantastic. But it's certainly not to sell each other. And it's just huge. Before you do, I have to say that Pete Ekstrom, good morning, Pete, he says he loves the suit and tie look, and he hopes it's making a comeback.
Thank you. Me too, because I have a lot of money invested in this. I also use metal business cards. It's part of my brand. So
I have a closet full of suits and ties, and I hope I never have to wear them again. But more power to you, my friend.
What size are you, Jeff? What's your next size?
42 regular, I think.
No, I'm talking about your shirts because I got slacks on down here. This is not a safe.
Well, I got sweats on down here, but
I'm interested in your ties and your shirts, buddy. That's what I want.
Yeah, I have some very nice ties. I get it. So you help people build better relationships on purpose with a plan. What type of plan do we need when we're networking?
Aha, there you go. I think a plan, the front end is important. Okay. And the first thing to understand is that in a group, you're not doing anything. I don't want to say you're not doing anything. You're never building trust in a group. You can lose trust in a group by saying something completely stupid, right? Racist, sexist, something like that. But you can't build trust in a group. Now, if you get off to the side and you're in a one-to-one conversation, you can. But the group setting is the one thing you can accomplish in a group setting is you can sort for who you want to build with. Okay. So I'm going to set this up by referencing one of my mentors, Earl Flormata. Find him on LinkedIn. It's a good guy to follow. Says the $5 question is, will you buy my stuff? Which goes back to people trying to sell to the other people in the group, which is not networking. I call that speed prospecting. And it's shallow. And it's not because people's hearts are in the wrong place. It's because their skills are in the wrong place. The $50 question is, who do you know that'll buy my stuff? Mediocre question at best. And you still have to cross some bridges before people will refer because they're putting their reputation on the line. $500 question, who do you know that would know a lot of people that would buy my stuff? For two reasons. Number one, I'm not looking for you to refer me, Jeff. Well, in your case, yeah, you could very well be my key referral partner, right? And I have something really big I'm working on that you and I are going to want to talk about. Okay. I can't put it public because it's not done deal yet, but thousands of people with budget this organization spends $5 million a year on ballpoint pens. They can afford some training.
I wish I was selling pens.
They're not selling pens.
I wish I was.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's all I'll say. I'm sure the margins are razor thin on that. Okay. The $500 question is, who do you know that knows a lot of people about my stuff? So the quest is for what I call a key referral partner. Somebody who, by dint of their role, comes into more people than the average man or woman on the street that would be in a position to buy what I'm offering. Let me just make it super clear. John Gates, one of my clients, salary negotiation coach. His target market is people looking for work. Amanda Valbert, resume writing coach. Her target market is people looking for work. John is never going to hire Amanda. Amanda's never going to hire John. But if they have the right approach to trust building, they can reach a point very quickly where all of John's clients get referred to Amanda and all of Amanda's clients get referred to John. Does that make sense? So that's a key referral partner.
I'm sorry.
Right. Okay. So then what is the progression? Okay. Number one, be strategic about who you're building with, right? We're going to spend this much time on the planet alive, right? This much awake, this much at work, and this much dealing with people. Why would we not focus our efforts on the people that we can do the most good for and can do the most good for us? Meaning, if I'm willing to get to know you well enough, Jeff, to decide if I'm willing to amplify your message, and I feel in my heart my message is worth amplifying, then why wouldn't I look to gain a relationship where I'm amplifying yours while you're amplifying mine? Right? Okay.
Absolutely.
So given that, so number one, people aren't strategic. They're marketing by hand. They're giving a business card to everybody they meet at all these networking events, right? They're, spam posting their, blocks of text into the chat box on a digital event, right? I'm like, whoa, I put one thing in there, my LinkedIn profile. You got to start there, because I don't even know if I want to talk to you yet, but you match me on LinkedIn. I'll look at your profile, then I might send you a calendar link. Okay. All right. So they're like I said, they're marketing by hand. As far as I'm concerned, what most people accomplish by going to networking events, they might as well have gone in the parking lot and put a business card under every windshield wiper and gone home and saved the calories and the time. Right. Okay. So number one, they've got to be strategic. Number two, they got to ask better questions. This is the soapbox I get on very, very, very quickly. Right. This is a great example. I'm in co-working space. Sorry, the lighting's bad. I got to the better space, realized I'd left my power cord and had to double back to the less good space visually. But I called Greg. I was here working late, as entrepreneurs do, Friday, 7 o'clock. And I messaged the owner, Greg, friend of mine, owner. And I said, Greg, something about custodial service. I can't remember what my issue was. And he said, I'll be right there. I'm like, Greg, it's Friday at 7. Custodial is not your job. He said, customer retention is my job. I'm like, legit. So he pops into my office and handles it. He doesn't live that far away. And as I'm talking to him, he goes, yeah, you're not the first one to bring it up. And I'm like, okay, that helps me understand why he was so responsive, right? That it wasn't a one-off. And then he said, yeah, you try to help out a family friend. And he kind of trailed off. And the next week we had a new service in here, right? So here's my point. Are there people in your world that have been to your house for Sunday dinner, have come to your house for game night, have been down to the bowling alley with you, and you actually would not hire them to do whatever it is they do for yourself, your family, or your business? Are there people like that in your world?
There certainly could be. Yeah.
That's a yes or no question. One guy looked at me for the longest time. He's like, are we starting a list? I'm like, no, I don't need names. I don't believe in cancel culture. Right. And I said, now let's try the reverse. Are there people that you have hired or would hire, and you just cannot picture them down there on a Wednesday at the 2-for-1 at the bowling alley with your family? So a model based around being friends and making friends and finding out if somebody is friendly is wholly insufficient for determining whether or not they belong in your professional. And people are asking the wrong sets of questions. It's okay to ask about your mom, right? How was the vacation? But understand that's not taking you anywhere. You're not headed anywhere with that. That's just, I don't want to say politeness, but that is mixing a little bit of the friendship factor, but you're not progressing in your understanding of that person's appropriate or inappropriateness in your business circle, right? Yeah. So strategic, be picky about who you spend your time with. Number 2, ask better questions. Number 3, be prepared to coach them on what you need from them, how they can serve you. Here's a principle that we all know, and we practice it with our children, our employees, our spouses, our customers, and then we don't practice it when it comes to our referral partners. And this is the principle. About time you're tired of saying it, they start to hear it. Mm-hmm. And we tell the one guy the one time, the thing that we do, and then we wonder why he never refers us. Well, number 1, did his model change? Number 2, did my model change? And he doesn't know if my model changed, and therefore he doesn't know what a good referral looks like for me. Did he ever really know what a good referral looked like for me? Conversely, I have to coach them on how to coach me on how to serve them. And people don't even know who their own target market is, so they're vague. They certainly, if they can't identify their own target market, they don't know how to coach the Jeffs of the world on how to identify their target market so that they can then partner, because it's not a one-sided thing. I'm going to coach them because I want to serve them, because I want them to want to serve me.
Yep. You've given me so much to unpack here. First of all, one of the things you said, it's one of my key strategies. I'm constantly on the lookout for who else is selling to my customer in a non-competitive way. We can help each other. So for me, because I'm a sales coach and trainer, recruiters who recruit salespeople and sales managers, perfect referral partners. I'm not competing with them. I'm doing something completely different, but we're both selling to the same person. So that's somebody I want to form relationships with. Second, I love the word you used, picky. Be picky about who you are referring and who you're willing to have as a referral partner, because you even said it. Every time you do make a referral, it's your reputation on the line. Because if I'm introducing you to somebody, Daniel, and you introduce me to Suzanne Taylor, a fantastic introduction, I adore her. But if I introduce you to somebody, who am I going to introduce you to? I'm going to introduce you to my clients or my prospects. That's how I feed my family. And if you go in and don't do an incredibly great job, it makes me look bad. It's my reputation on the line. So I'm particularly picky about that. I also want to point out, you mentioned an organization before. I'm not sure if everybody is familiar with Vistage. It's a CEO peer group. It's not really a networking organization, but it has some similarities. Networking, in order to get people to know you and like you and trust you enough to be willing to refer you in the right circumstances, takes time. And you have to establish a relationship of trust with your networking partners, and you started going there. Is there anything people can do to decrease the amount of time that it takes to do that? Because sometimes you meet somebody, you just know it's right. But usually, I mean, for me, I truly have to believe. Here's my philosophy. As opposed to most people, which I think is, hey, I'm going to make an introduction, Daniel. Don't make me look bad. For me, it's you better make me look good. If the person I introduce you to does not get in touch with me and say, wow, thank you for introducing me to Daniel Andrews, whether they use your services or not is besides the point to me. But if they don't thank me for that introduction, I shouldn't have made it in the first place. So how do we shorten that amount of time? And can we at all?
Yeah, yes, you can shorten it. And in a lot of cases, it's faster and easier than it is building trust with a potential customer. Okay. Now, and let's look at a couple of different levels there. But yes, you can definitely shorten the process. And I'll give you two critical keys. And by the way, those of you that tuned in or catch this later will be super happy, because I will share two pieces of information for which I charge $150 and a 3-minute video online for access. Because these two, I should probably charge $1,500 or $15,000 once I share the depth of this. But it's kind of hard to sell at $1,500. But anyway, so you guys are going to get some real value here in a minute. But there's kind of two levels of introduction, right? There's the one where I'm introducing Jeff to a prospect. I've got to feel really, really, really good at what Jeff's going to deliver. By the way, I do feel really good about what Jeff's going to deliver. How many times have we interacted in a paired interview format? 2 or 3 times in our life, okay? But I'm around you and I see the way you interact with other people in public, and the work that we've done in and around each other has been reinforcing. Okay. So if I'm introducing a customer, my trust level needs to be really high. If I'm introducing a potential key referral partner, my trust levels can be a little bit lower, because I'm not asking either one of you to spend money with the other person. I'm asking you to explore. I set up my grown daughter, on a date with one of my very good friends. Okay. I don't have any expectation of the outcome. They may have some chemistry, they may not. Turns out they didn't, which is fine. They still are in the same circles. They can see each other. You know, he's engaged to another friend of ours that he met at our Christmas party. You know, so there's networking right for you. But anyway, I'm not. I trust them to work out the details, right? So when I can introduce somebody that could be a key referral partner to Jeff with less confidence in them, because I know Jeff's going to sniff them out anyway for his own purposes, right? So you can get introductions to key referral partners way quicker, because they're putting less on the line to introduce you to a potential key referral partner. Okay, so having said that, here's one way to shorten the process tremendously. When you get into your first paired interview, which is my general term for anything that involves 1-to-1 or maybe 2-to-1, right? Could be coffee, breakfast, lunch, virtual coffee. I hate that phrase. 1-to-1, that's used by leads groups and networking groups. I refuse to use any vocabulary they use. Paired interview, because you should be interviewing the other person. Paired interview at the beginning, or even as you said it and get on the books. Jeff, I'll role play with you. Jeff, I want to call this meeting today, and this is going to be replayable, right? So I have to slow down so people can write down every word. Jeff, I want to call this, I wanted to meet with you today to look into the possibility to learn enough about you, your business, what you do, most importantly, who you do it for, that I could possibly become a consistent source of leads, introductions, connections, and resources. I would want you to do the same for my business. Is that something you're willing to do?
Sure. Sounds great to me.
Dan, my brother-in-law does the same thing you do. You're never going to get a lead from me. Jeff, I respect your integrity. let's just chat for a few minutes and go on about our day. You're now almost never going to get a no, but if you are going to get a no, wouldn't you want to get it then?
Absolutely. And I've actually said that my best, excuse me, my best friend in the world is a divorce attorney. He's not in my networking organization. And there is another one. And the guy said, let's meet. And we did. And I said, I got to tell you right up front, my best friend since high school is a divorce attorney. I can't see a situation where I could really help you. And I don't want to waste your time. He goes, you're not wasting my time. You never know. He might be busy. Anything could happen. But I'm a big fan of completely transparent upfront. Why waste people's time?
Correct. And so that shortens the process for two reasons. Number one, we've identified why we're doing this to start with. I mean, they kind of might have in the back of their mind subconsciously known, but now they know now. Number two, it shows that you've got a plan. Their trust in you goes up just because you've got a plan. Literally, that. Now, it's not enough trust, but it adds to the trust factor for them to go, this guy knows what he's doing. And the second part of that, I'm sorry, guys, my hair is killing me. I should just be off camera. I should turn off my own camera so I can't see
fine, my friend.
Okay.
Anyway,
Whatever. Here's the second. At the end of that paired interview or the beginning of the second one, Jeff, under what conditions would you feel comfortable referring business to me?
That's a good question that I
That
haven't
has
asked before.
4 features, at least 4. I always lose track. I'll start to list off some reasons. Number one, if they've got ridiculous expectations, I want to know that now. Okay. Number two, you will surprise yourself with the number of people that go, we're good. Now, number three, it gives you permission to ask for the referral. Whenever you've met that standard, reached that bar, crossed that threshold, whatever it was they set out for you, you now know that you can ask for the referral. You don't have to wonder if now's the right time. They told you what the right time would look like when you got there. And number 4 is it gives them permission to give you the referral, which makes it easier on both of you. I'm more inclined to ask when I know I have permission to ask. I'm more inclined to ask when I know they have permission in their own head to give. Those 2 questions show that you have a plan. They don't. Your trust factors go up right there. But number 2, it's keeping the focus on where we're at. And it shortens the process, or it shortens the length of time or the number of meetings you have to get into before you can be like, okay, I need something. Right? Here's another quick example. If you ever, that comment came and went on my screen and read to me, but here's another great example. If you're only working on introductions to start with, then you've also shortened the process, meaning you are more quickly to lean into STK, Suzanne Taylor King, famous in her own way, because you had trusted me when I made that intro, right? Meaning Suzanne sends me an intro, Daniel, Ruben, y'all do big things together. That's the whole intro. And I went, I know better than to argue with STK, LOL, here's my link. And Ruben went, me too, LOL, I booked. And my point is we're already starting off on the assumption that the trust is there. Now, can either one of us drop that baton, just like in a relay race? Yes. Sure. But if you only network with people you've been introduced to, or once you get going, you only accept introductions to build your network, that shortens the process because you're showing up where the other person left off. If I was at an 8 with Suzanne when I gave you the lead and you're at a 10 with me, you're at an 8 when you get there. If I'm at an 8 with you and I'm at a 10 with Suzanne, you're at an 8 when you get there. If you're at an 8 and she's at an 8, you're at an 8 when you get there. Whatever the lowest link in the chain is, that's where you show up.
Gotcha. Bruce Castleman, who's also a wonderful financial advisor, says, I actually got a referral from someone that said he would never refer me or give me business. I work for it, but it can be done. Is there anything in particular that we should be looking for in people we network with? And are there any red flags that we should be looking out for?
I would say a red flag is somebody that can't or chooses not to get past the speed prospecting modality. Meaning I've talked to a lot of people and they've allowed me to coach them on the notion of a referral partner, a key referral partner, a key referral source. Those are 3 different things, by the way. And that's great, right? it's an interesting, the book Give and Take points out that at the highest levels of success, if you categorize people three ways, and you can with a few key questions: givers, takers, and what they call reciprocal. I don't like reciprocity. I love mutuality. Okay. Givers, takers, reciprocals. In the highest levels of success, which of those three categories is likely to be in the highest levels of success? Giver, taker, reciprocals.
Givers.
Okay. In the lowest categories of success, which is most likely to be there?
Takers.
Givers. Because they're giving wrong.
How's that?
They're giving to the wrong people. I just try to do good in the world, and if I put out enough, it'll come back to me. I'm like, man, we got 6,000 years of recorded history that says, that's not how it works. The law of attraction, nope. The law of reciprocity, nope. The secret, just put it out there and it'll all come back to you. Nope. You got to be particular about who you're giving to. So what are the red flags? Somebody that doesn't practice a spirit of mutuality, right? Would be part of it, and is unwilling to learn that, or change their focus.
I would include somebody who tries to sell you instead of networking with you, and somebody who, if you do a one-on-one, they don't let you talk. It's all about them. And anybody who's like that is not going to be generous in any relationship. So why bother?
Yep.
And I'm also curious, do you track metrics regarding your networking activities? And if so, how do you track them, and what metrics do you track?
Sure. Tracking metrics is a personality issue. The very, very small back part of my brain goes, I really should be tracking this stuff. I don't. Suzanne, on the other hand, said publicly yesterday, I literally had 7 new customers that came to me from referral because of what Daniel taught me. She said in the last month, 7 new people that came on board as clients in the last month by using the skills that Daniel taught me. So she's clearly tracking, where that stuff comes from. I think the choice to track is very it's your personality. Are you a spreadsheet sort of guy, or you're not a spreadsheet sort of guy? Anything will work, right? Whatever method you're tracking. But if I was, it would be the number of introductions that somebody's making for me. Okay. And number 2, it would be, the conversion rate, meaning I could have Jeff that's willing to support. He's giving me the referrals, but they're not high quality. And that's on me, because Jeff does not understand what a quality referral looks like for me. So if I was going to track, and by the way, the numbers don't have to be big. Speaking of spreadsheets, a guy named Kevin runs a Vistage group here in this town. And I said to him, was talking about referrals. And he said, yeah, I actually have a spreadsheet where I track, where all my customers came from. I'm like, Kevin, of all the people I know, you are the most likely to have a spreadsheet that tells you that. And I said, okay, great. Did some come from referrals? Yes. What's the most you got from one person? And he said, 2. He goes, no, wait. Neil closed his Vistage business and gave me his 3 best customers. So I got 3 from Neil. That's not duplicatable. Neil's not going to open up a new Vistage chapter every 5 years so that he can close it and give his 3 best leads to Kevin, right? Sure. And even if he does, that's 1 every year and a half, right? And I'm like, seriously, your high watermark is 2. So if you've got somebody giving you a quality qualified referral, introduction, by the way, not a name on a piece of paper, introduction.
I'm with you.
4 to 6 times a year, which is not a lot, but it's a lot, right? It's enough to keep you in business, because if you have 10 of those people in your world, I don't know about you, Jeff, but straight up question, 10 people giving you 6 a year, that's 60 qualified, 2 different words, warm introductions a year. Would that move the needle significantly in your business? 60?
100%. Absolutely. Are you kidding me?
It's not true for everybody. If they sell Mary Kay, 60 doesn't mean squat to them. Okay.
No, that would be a huge difference for me.
And then people go, how do I maintain 10 relationships? It's easy. You don't even have to call them or take them to lunch. You support them. The best way for me to stay on Jeff's mind is to send him a lead every now and then. And that'll keep Jeff sending me one. Not because he's reciprocal, not because he's like, oh my God, Dan sent me one, I better send him one back. But because I'm on his mind, because I'm showing that love and support.
Well, you actually just took me to my next question. You saw it in advance and you started talking about it. Besides getting together one-on-one, which is important in a networking relationship, what other methods do you recommend people use to stay in touch, to stay top of mind, so that people do think of you? Because quite often This is not the way I operate. I'm in one group. I focus all my attention there, but quite often people are in multiple groups, and each group has an accountant, and each group has lawyers and financial advisors. So I think it is important to track metrics, because if I'm in 3 groups with 3 accountants, I want to invest the most time with the person who's most likely to give me more. But how do we stay in touch? Because look, obviously, other sales trainers, I know other networking experts.
Yep.
How do you stay top of mind so that you are the person they think of?
Several ways. Small ways of keeping in touch, right? One can simply be, a card around their birthday. I know people that believe very firmly in sending out greeting cards in January and February, so you're not lost in the glut of the holiday card, stuff. I know somebody that specifically sends cards after somebody's birthday. She waits till they post their celebration of their birthday on Facebook, takes a picture of it, prints it on a card, right, and then sends it to them. So now they have a memory of the day, right? A printed memory of the day, which is kind of cool. All right. So, timing on that. Part of it can be using some nudge device, Engage Pro with Thomas Gay, right? It's got this great software product called Engage Pro, where you can make a list of things that people are interested in. And then if I'm like, I want to get in touch with Jeff, and I know he likes to wingsuit fly on the weekends, and it will automatically give me a list of current articles on wingsuit flying. And I'm like, hey, Jeff, saw this, thought of you, right? So that's one way to, hey, saw this, thought of you, right? That's the way my family speaks love. So this is very natural, right? My mom is in there, before the dementia kicked in, she's cutting out articles, about what it means to be a small business owner, because she knows I'm self-employed. She doesn't know anything else about what I do, but she's just always to let me know I'm thinking of you and I love you. And then another.
By the way, I advise the same thing in the sales process. When you're selling, you're developing a relationship with a prospect. Find out what's of interest to them and send them articles. And by the way, I don't know about you, I like it when you print it out, put a sticky note on it, and say, saw this and thought of you exactly. No business card, no looking forward to doing business. Saw this, thought of you. Fly suit, whatever. Stand-up comedy, which is what I'm interested in. Although fly suiting looks really cool. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that. But yeah, it's a great way not only to network, but to sell. Please continue.
My wife calls it a squirrel suit because it looks like the way a flying squirrel is built. So she calls it a squirrel suit. Okay. And then another way is to update people on what you've got going on, right? Like if I sent Jeff an email, which I might do if we can't get some face-to-face time, I'm like, hey, just so you know, some really cool stuff is happening in my world lately, right? This is a big project. I might be able to close, coaching for a couple thousand people in my skill set. Now that has 2 things. Number one, top of mind, right? You got to do it low key, right? Not like the Christmas newsletter where everybody's bragging on how great their world is, right? Okay. But low key, but I do a couple things. Number one, top of mind. Number 2, I'm building my credibility. Number 3, if Jeff is a key referral partner, he's like, oh, I need to keep an eye on that. Right now, what if Jeff says, oh, I've already done business with those guys. Here's how to speed the process up. Or Jeff says, actually, that's interesting. I'm in a conversation with that same org, but a different division. Let's see which one of us gets to the finish line first, and we'll pull the other one across it. Right? Or, hey, Dan, I have some experience with those guys in the past. I lost the sale because of XYZ. So make sure that Fred's not in the room because he's a jerk. Or if Fred's in the room, make sure you send him a gift of Wild Turkey, bourbon, because, that's his thing. Right? So it's interesting what can happen there, right? But it builds my cred, right? And if Jeff was thinking about introducing me to that client and he knows I'm already in the door, then he's like, okay, I'm not risking as much to try and help Dan accelerate it. Yeah. Or vice versa. He knows he's not asking me to risk that much. If he says, oh, I'm working in a different division, we're going to get, let's, or, hey, I start a conversation too. Let's make sure and name drop the heck out of each other anytime we're pitching. Hey, I heard you talking with Jeff. Well, I know a lot of people have brought him in and had good results. So once you're finished spending your money with me, make sure and spend it with Jeff. Or if you choose Jeff first, make sure you spend your money with me when you're done with Jeff, right? We can name drop the heck out of each other. So that's a good way to stay in touch, particularly with a key referral partner, because you have no idea where they stand inside that org or with people related to them. Oh, Fred used to work. One of my clients is a guy that used to work. Let me introduce you to him. He might can tell you the inside scoop.
Yeah, I think it's important to keep in mind that normally what we think of in developing a relationship and maintaining a relationship is getting together one-on-one, whether it's Zoom or whatever it is, or in person. But not everything has to take an hour or two. A quick call, a text, a note, every little touch is another deposit in the bank of credibility and relationship. And I think the important thing is, have a plan. We talked about you teach people how to have a plan. Have a plan. It's funny. I'm involved in a program right now about self-sabotage, and the guy who leads it asked me to do something, and he asked me to come up with a list of 3 things that I'm not doing, which would make me money. And I said, okay. And I came up with them actually pretty quickly. And one of them was getting organized about my referral partners so that I'm tracking how often I stay in touch with them. And I sent him that. He goes, when are you going to do that by? I said, I'm going to get that done by the end of this weekend. Well, I actually sat down yesterday and I said, wait a minute. I created that list 2 months ago. I just haven't looked at it since. And I looked at it, and there it was in Google Drive. I've got this beautiful list with spreadsheet and all kinds of columns for how did I stay in touch, when did I do it, when should I do it next. The only thing I have to do now is get a reminder on my calendar to actually use it. But it's little things that make a big difference quite often. I want to move to another question. I often meet people, because I work with salespeople on a daily basis, and they're often networking, but I'll ask them, how's your networking going? Is it being productive? And often it's like, no, not really. Well, how long have you been in your group? 2 years. Well, what should someone do if they're in a networking organization like yours or the one I belong to or any other, and they're not getting referrals or they're getting very few? And I want to give you one more piece of that question. I believe it could be their poor networking skills, or it could be the group. What's your advice?
First look inward. It's most likely them. Okay. Keep in mind that there are plenty of networking groups, right, where leads are given. I don't ever believe a lead should be given. I believe a lead should be earned, right? In the context of a lot of networking groups, and I'm not here to bash it, but just be aware that their pitch is that all you have to do is, this is your seat. When they use the word seat or chair, you realize they're talking about things, not people. That's a clue. Right? As long as you're a member, every lead that comes to your category, Jeff, goes to you. That's their pitch. That's the biggest reason not to do that. Because what it means is the minute you're off the roster, your name will never be mentioned in public again. It also means if that's the only qualification, you're expected to refer the other people in the room, regardless of whether they deliver good results or not. So if the whole pitch is all you have to do is join and you get all the leads, that is the biggest reason to be afraid of that org. I tell people all the time, before you join me, right, what you need to know is that you have everybody in the room owes you one thing. It's the same thing you owe them: breakfast, lunch, or coffee, and a chance to make a good first impression. Okay. I do want to make a quick reference because I coach people in all sorts of places, meaning you don't have to be part of my organization to get coached on what to do when you're wherever you are. So if you've already man, I'm not going to join a network in action, which is fine. Or I've already joined another one, which is great. Or I'm going to join one in Denver, which Simon is a great guy. You should join the one in Denver if that's where you happen to be. I can still coach on what to do when you meet those people. I have a whole separate LLC that does coaching. That's why you and I are referral partners, right? Around Ninja network building skills. Just want to put that out there. Not going to pitch it anymore, but you don't have to be a network and acting candidate to want to lean into a conversation with me. I'm unable to join the main chat, but if you can copy some of my links into the chat at some point, Jeff, that'd be great. Or share them after the event's over, whenever you post this, that'd be great. Anyway, want to put that out there, but I would typically first look at myself, right? What am I doing here that's making, you're probably speed prospecting and annoying people. And here's what's interesting. People are like, well, but if I don't talk to them like a customer, how will I ever know if they could, I don't want to miss them if they could be a customer. You don't. When you talk about who you serve, hey, Jeff, great example, right? Walter Cohn, print shop up the hill. Joe Schaefer, print shop cross town. I've known both of them 30 years. If you met them at a networking event and they said to you, I run a print shop, you might stick your foot in your mouth and go, I need 1,000 business cards. Which one of you guys are going to give me a better offer? And Walter would look at you and Joe would be like, I got you. Because Walter's average ticket is $1 million. He doesn't print 1,000 business cards, right? So it's not enough to say what you do. You say who you serve. And here's what's fun, right? So if Joe's saying, hey, I run a print shop and I serve small biz, blah, 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 whatever, then you have a chance to be like, I'm small biz. I need 1,000 business cards. I need my vehicle wrapped, right? But if you're talking to Walter and he says, I own a print shop, and what I do is I serve luxury goods manufacturers, boat manufacturers, jewelry manufacturers, luxury goods, and we produce their catalogs at wholesale for the wholesale catalogs that go to the retailers, right? Blah, 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 blah. I do bulk mailing for national healthcare organizations when there's been a data leak or data breach and they have to dump all that information out and alert people that their information's been compromised or that they've been bought by another conglomerate or whatever. It's not unusual for him to send 1 million mail pieces at a time, right? So it allows people to go, I'm one of those guys. So you're not missing the person you're talking to as a prospect. You haven't screwed that up. You've made it better because you assume their value to you is in how useful they can be, which people like to be, not in how much money you're going to spend with them. So you've already created more comfort, right? The level is down, the comfort's up. And third, if somebody holds their hand up and says, hey, Jeff, I need one of those conversations. Don't you and that person then lean into that conversation differently? You show up differently when you know that they said, I want one of those. Because I don't care if you've identified me as a target or even an ideal prospect. Until I identify myself as a prospect, nothing you say or do is going to move you ahead. And the longer you talk about what you do, you might be moving the conversation backwards, even with me as a prospect, because I don't want to be treated as a prospect until I've said, hey, Jeff, I want one of those conversations that you were talking about.
And I like what you did physically just there, because that's exactly what I'm looking for. I'm looking for people who raise their hand. I'm a big fan of outbound marketing, and I teach people how to prospect in a wide variety of ways. But what I personally want is people who raise their hand and say, hey, Jeff, I'd like to talk to you about maybe working with me or my team or buying your program or whatever it is, because it's far easier to help somebody choose to do business with you when they've come to you and said, I have an interest in what you've got, rather than you having to pitch cold. And there's nothing wrong with pitching cold, but I'm all about, how do I make my not so easy job selling? I often say it beats digging ditches in the hot sun, which I don't know because I've never done that, but it's still not easy. So how do I make it as easy as possible? And I want to do that by finding people who raise their hand. And by the way, you said you weren't going to pitch, but I actually planned on asking you, what is your 8-week Ninja networking building program all about?
It's trading the transactionalism, for relationships, right? It's speeding up the process by which you can and will get the referrals that you need.
Oops. Oh boy. Looks like Daniel lost his internet connection. Well, I'll tap dance for a few moments in case he comes back. We're almost up. Here he comes. There you go. We lost you for a second there.
It's not. Okay. Ninja network building skills. It's how to, the output is to have 6, 10, a dozen, meaning the number's not as important as the order of magnitude. We're not talking about hundreds or thousands. 6, 10, a dozen key referral partners. Those are people that are going to produce anywhere from 4 to 6 quality, qualified, warm introductions, right? I asked somebody about that. Would 60 million? He goes, well, it depends on the quality. He said, no. You're mistaking the leads I'm talking about for all the prospects that you've ever been referred to. Picture for a minute the favorite introduction you've ever gotten. 60 of those. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about variability in the quality of the lead. Quality, qualified, warm introductions. So anywhere from 40 to 60 of those, 24 to 60 of those per year, with little to no maintenance, because you're supporting them and they're supporting you. So you don't have to do a lot of extra work to stay in touch or stay top of mind, right? So that's the output. What does it consist of? Understanding how this works and why it works, the psychosocial principles that make it work. Number 2, being strategic. Number 3, asking better questions. Number 4, having a plan. Before every conversation, you got to have a plan. Number 5, understanding the arc of the relationship. In my model, there's 5 degrees of professional relationship. Number 3 is key referral partner. You don't even have to go all the way to the end. You just got to get to level 3. Level 3 is key referral partner. Coach them. Already told you this one. 5A, 5B. 5A, coach them on how to coach you, on how to serve them, and coach them on how to serve you. Right. Next tool is introduce the right people in the right way. And the last tool is ask, which is both the biggest and the smallest. Biggest because you have not, because you ask not. It's right there in the Bible. Okay. Smallest because if you've done the rest of that right, doesn't it seem like that would be the easiest thing if you've done all those other things right. Yeah, absolutely. It makes it so easy to be like, hey, Jeff, we blocked the other 30 minutes. You pull up your LinkedIn and start going through it. I'll pull up mine, right? Let's see who can make the most referrals in the next 30 minutes. Go. I could do that with Jeff at this point if I can get 30 minutes on his calendar. But I promise you, if I told him I was giving him leads too, he'll find a time to put 30 minutes on his calendar. Now, it might be 3 quality introductions in those 30 minutes. It might be 30 mediocre introductions, but we could make things happen. And it could be as easy as going, we got to get together and talk about how to support each other.
Yeah, and I like what the phrase you're using, well-made introductions. There's a difference between, here, call this guy, and really making an introduction. Here's my belief that a well-made, and I'm 99% sure we're on the exact same page here, a well-made introduction, they're halfway closed before you even get there. The selling is so much easier when somebody has already said, who they trust, says, if you introduce me to somebody, you're introducing me to somebody who already likes you and knows you and trusts you. And you're using your social capital, saying you should trust this guy. They're halfway sold before I even get there.
Here's the surprising fact. When you're making an introduction, the person that you say the least about is the person you trust the most. Right? When STK sent that one to me and Ruben, right? Daniel, comment Ruben, y'all do big things. Do big things together. And we started knowing that both of us were at a level 10 with Suzanne, which means, now, can you drop the baton in the handoff? Yeah. Are Ruben and I doing business together? No. Do we still like each other? Yeah. Right. But we're starting at a level 10. And either one of us would refer somebody to the other after just 1 or 2 meetings, because that's all it took. We started way down the, halfway around the track, so to speak.
Yeah. What part of my verbiage when I make an introduction for someone is, I consider it a personal favor if you would meet with Daniel in this example. And I know that after you do, you'll be reaching out to me to thank me. I mean, I'm putting my reputation on the line, but is somebody going to get that email or that phone call and go, nah, I don't want to meet with them? No, because I already have a relationship of trust with them. So it just makes sense to do that. We're running out of time very quickly. I want to ask one more quick question before we go, because
Sure.
I read this in one of your LinkedIn posts. You talk about the need for bravery in business. Why do we need to be brave in business?
Abraham Lincoln said, good things come to those who hustle, right? The grand quote is, everything you want is on the other side of fear, right? We need to be brave because we understand what we do and the value of what we do much better than anybody that we talk to until they've been a client. And if they were looking for you, they'd be on your doorstep already. So we have to be brave enough to put ourselves out there, to risk the rejection, right? That doesn't mean you got to pitch everybody you see, right? But you've got to let that light shine. You absolutely have to. And, was talking with somebody, this real estate broker paid me to come to their monthly dinner. So she fed me dinner and, at a nice restaurant, and speak to her 6 agents plus herself, paid me a nice sum for the effort. And, she's like, but it's kind of the same question your guy had, how do I, do business with friends, right? I'm so reluctant to ask them to do business with me. And then I talked about, the questions about, do you want to pursue this relationship? What does it look like? She's like, that just seems like such an awkward question. I'm like, what? How can that be awkward? Right? I mean, if I don't declare my intentions, why we're having, number one, very quickly, Jeff will stop meeting with me when he doesn't understand the purpose of why we're meeting. Number two, Jeff's wife is going to be like, are you sure Dan's straight? Because he keeps calling lunch meetings with you, and you have yet to tell me that you know what that's about, right? It's why wouldn't you want to make sure you're clear? Because you can only serve so many people.
Yeah.
Why not serve the people you can serve the best?
Yeah. By the way, my ex-wife doesn't care whether you're gay or straight, so
Okay.
let's not go there. Daniel, we're out of time. If somebody's interested in Network in Action or your Ninja Networking, how do they reach you?
Yep. Yeah. And hopefully you'll get this up in the link, afterwards. But my name is my URL. My full name, Daniel Patrick Andrews, is not searchable because you will get buried under 1 million hits for a guy who's the bombastic former principal of the territory of Victoria in Australia. He's got 1 million search returns, but the website, www.danielpatrickandrews.com, will take you to me. It's a fairly weak website. It exists primarily to have a link to my LinkedIn profile, a link to my calendar, and a link to all my testimonials. But that's what it's there for. I believe in personal touch. I don't believe in marketing. I believe in reputation, right? So get in touch with me. We'll talk. We'll decide in a few minutes if we want to have a longer talk, whatever that looks like. Love to meet people all the time. DanielPatrickAndrews.com. Don't search that name. You'll never find me. Put it in as a URL. You'll find me.
Or, of course, go to LinkedIn.
Yeah, but there's 1 million Daniel Andrews on LinkedIn too. Or just go to Jeff's LinkedIn and then look for the Daniel Andrews connected to Jeff.
There you go. So for those of you listening for the last hour, now you see why I invited this gentleman back, even though we spoke to him in March, and we'll probably speak to him again in 2024. As always, Daniel, a pleasure to be speaking with you. Thank you for sharing your brilliance so generously. And I will end as I always do. Guys, please remember, sales is a game of making things happen. I do believe in the law of attraction. I do believe in the law of reciprocity, but none of that works without massive action. So get out there and make sales happen. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you next week. Thank you, Daniel. Thanks, everyone.